All right, we want to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our to another State Board of Missions, Alabama Baptist Convention State Board of Missions Periscope broadcast. I'm Doug Rogers, Communications Director for the State Board of Missions. We're so glad you've joined us today, and we're excited to talk about the topic of church planting in Alabama today. And we've got three special guests that I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves by starting with this gentleman right here.
I'm Lamar Duke. I'm the lead church planting strategist. I'm your state board missionary, and I'm excited to be here today to tell you about some new developments that are happening in church planting.
Great. And you've got with you these two folks. Terrence, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us what you're doing.
I'm Terrence Jones. I'm the lead pastor of Strong Tower, Washington Park, a church plant on the west side of Montgomery.
All right.
I'm Steve Walters, lead pastor at the Church at Pike Road on the east side of Montgomery.
Great. It is so good to have you guys here with us who are involved directly with church planting, coincidentally right here in Montgomery. And we're going to hear your story and hear from you in just a second. But Lamar, let me let you kind of start us out. There's been a flurry of activity in church planting in Alabama the last few years, and there's really a reason for that. Tell us the progress that's taken place just over the last few years.
Well, it all began in 2012 when the Alabama Baptist Convention adopted a new Future Focus initiative, which involved 220 new church plants being part of the goal by 2020. And our office, the Office of Associational Missions and Church Planting, are taking the lead in that. And what we've been doing since that time, Rick Barnhart and I have been working together to try to put together a strong quality assessment process, which we are currently now in the process of upgrading. We're also always working to edit and improve our training and coaching, because we know that if there's quality assessment, training, and coaching, there's an 85% success rate after 4 years of those church plants that have experienced that.
Well, how has that worked out, practically speaking? We know the statistics. How has it worked out here for us in Alabama?
Well, I can honestly tell you that every day we in our office, and we encourage our planners also to pray each day. Luke 10:2, which says, "The Lord of the harvest, please send laborers for the." We don't have a harvest problem. We have a labor problem. So we ask God to provide those. We're excited about the fact that since Rick and I have been working together in 2013, we have seen 50 planners that we funded through our office, and 12 plus that have gone out to other states from Alabama. We ought to be a sending state. We're a very strong state in Christian work, so we ought to be able to send more people out too. So we're interested in planting churches in Alabama and beyond.
That is great to hear. What is going on right now? What are some recent developments? What are some things that are taking place right now that you're excited about?
Well, one of the things that I've wrestled with since I became a state missionary here in Alabama is that I wanted to work on these three areas: assessment, training, and coaching. And I felt like we did a fair job the first couple of years getting the assessment and coaching off the ground, or assessment and training. But the coaching was a booger that I just couldn't get a handle on. We just tried our best to figure out how to do that. But last year we hit upon an idea. I believe the Lord gave us an idea, and we started coaching networks that followed each of our basic trainings. And they're 1 year of coaching, 4-hour coaching session in person with a competent, experienced church planter leading those sessions, and they're like 4 hours once a month for a year. And we're blessed here today to have some men who went through that, and maybe they'd have testimony about what that's meant to them in their personal life and also in their ministry.
Good deal. We just got one question that came in, and then we'll turn and hear from our other guests. We received a question. What do you think is the cause for the lack of laborers? What do you think when you say the harvest there, but there's a lack of laborers? What do you think is the cause for that?
Well, when that word was said in Luke 10:2, I think there were Josephus says there were 2,000 priests waiting in Jerusalem for their turn. So it wasn't a lack of laborers, it was a lack of qualified laborers. So really what it amounts to is who's willing to take the risk and take the gamble and take the step of faith to go out there and start new churches. That's a big step. We call church planners in our circles, in our office, we call them the extreme sport of ministry, because it's just way above and beyond the normal established church pastor. It's a lot more involved. So it's not for everyone, but it's not for the faint-hearted. It's for those that are ready to be Green Berets, if you please.
Exactly, exactly. Well, let's turn over here to we'll start with Terrence, since you happen to be closer to me. Terrence, tell us a word about the church plant you're involved in on the west side of Montgomery, and also, as you tell us that, tell us how the coaching opportunities you've received have been helpful to you as well.
Well, we got started a few years ago in West Montgomery, which if you check out the Impact website for the state of Alabama with church planting, you'll see that there are 100 spots that have been identified as hot spots that they want to see churches planted there. Well, our area is considered 71% unreached, and so it's a very, very difficult to establish a church there. But by God's grace, we've been at it for a few years now, and I was telling Lamar and some others, I just wish that on the front end we had started with the training, because it has allowed me to be able to go back and understand some mistakes we've made, and also prepare for the future in a way that will make things much easier. And I say that about the coaching network as well. It's just been great to be a part of those.
We're going to give a few more details about the actual coaching network a little later, but how specifically has it helped you, and what have you been able to gain from being a part of this coaching network?
Well, a couple of things. With the network, I would say that just being in the room with other church planners and pastors who desire to do the same thing that you're doing is very helpful. Church planting can be a lonely place. Not many people understand the pressures that you go through, and so being in a room to talk and hear the experiences of other guys is helpful. And also having Tommy, who's an experienced church planner, give us pointers in every area of ministry, whether it be support raising, whether it be outreaches, keeping track of data that is helpful for your church to be able to maximize the impact. It's just been a blessing all the way around. Boundaries for your family, many, many tools that have been given to us on a monthly basis that has allowed me to establish, more health and just vitality, I believe, in the life of our ministry going forward.
Good, and that's Tommy Duke you referenced too, is leading those coaching sessions. Let's move over to Steve and let you talk a minute about the Church of Pike Road. Talk about what's taking place there with that church plant, and also the impact the coaching network has had in your ministry.
Sure. Well, Pike Road is a growing area, a growing community, and when we went into that area, we fully expected to see a lot of folks that were moving in from all over the country, and we did. We've seen a lot of that. In fact, our church is comprised of a lot of people that have moved here from other places. And as a result of that, we want to get them plugged in and really launch them into this idea of multiplying churches. We want to take those folks and mobilize them for a mission. That's been our goal from the beginning, and we want to start out as a church plant. So we've really geared everything toward that, and God's really blessed that by bringing some folks to us that want to make sure that they're living out that mission every day.
You've been a part of the coaching network as well.
I have.
Talk about what he mentioned, and I think we all feel this way when we're involved in something, knowing you're not going through something alone. Talk about that a little bit.
That's huge. You do have a sense of loneliness because you really, frankly, can't explain to everybody what the planter is going through, and it's great to hear from somebody who's experienced, who's been down that path, and immediately when your coach and your peers that are going through that same thing begin to talk and speak on the very things that you're struggling with, I think that's really key. And not only that, I think it was practical. I think that rather than just giving a lot of theory and things that we'd like to see, the thing that's great about the Church Planting Network that I experienced is those folks were dealing with practical, everyday issues that I needed practical advice for, and that was just irreplaceable.
Let me just step back real quick so we can see both of you. What are some ways God has, and you don't have to use any specific names, but God has affirmed you and the work you're doing, even at the early stages of these churches? How have you seen God at work?
Go ahead, Terrence. I'll let you go first. How about that?
Well, I mean, our situation is not only are we planting a church in the area, but we've also planted our lives in that area. And so That question, we see almost on a daily basis as we live amongst the people that we're trying to serve. So whether it's children in and out of our homes every day, I try to stress the point, because I'm not the only believer there. There are several that have moved in to the west side of Montgomery for our ministry and other ministries. But one thing we try to establish at the church is that we want our homes to be a place of peace. And so while, it's a neighborhood where you may hear gunshots and there may be domestic violence, there may be all types of horrible things going on outside, when they come into our homes, they're able to see Christianity lived out up close. And I remember just one quick thing. I remember a young man a few years back, actually, who came and sat at my dinner table, and he ate with us as a family, and he made a comment. He said, "I've never done this before." So that was one thing that blew my mind. But the next thing was even more encouraging. He says, "When I get a family, I want us to do the same thing." And so here's a young man who didn't have a father in his home, only in our home for a day, and it already changed his heart's desires to see a complete family, to see people eating together, loving on each other, enjoying each other. And so those things happen on a daily basis. So.
Steve?
Well, Terrence he has a remarkable ministry, and as I listened to him talk, I just wanted to add on from just listening to him. I'm amazed at how healthy his family is in the midst of oftentimes chaos, and he invites folks into his home that are broken, and I appreciate that, and I just had to say that as I was listening to him. It reminded me of some of the things we've talked about in the past, but for us, the ministry obviously looks a little bit different in Pike Road than it does there, and because of that, I would say that what we have seen are just a series of miracles, and I think that's one of the things we want to communicate to our church in general. One of the young men in our church asked me the other day, said, "Steve, what are some miracles you've seen happen?" And I said, "Well, for example, the building that you're standing in that we just rented, we had no money for 2 weeks ago." That sort of thing happens regularly. When you're just crying out to God and asking for Him to bring encouragement and bring a message of salvation through someone, they arrive. When you ask people to walk into your life and not just bring encouragement, but bring a place to worship and bring the discipleship needs to the forefront, God has just answered that over and over again. I was just in Nashville listening to a church planter say the very same words. He said, in a church plant, you're going to need to see a series of miracles. And I think that's exactly what I've experienced and what Terrence has experienced as well.
That's exciting. Thank you guys for those testimonies. Lamar, I know there's a great opportunity coming up really soon for those that are interested in learning more about church planting here in the state. Tell me about that opportunity.
Absolutely. On Thursday, August 13th, at the Madison Baptist Association building on Whitesburg in Huntsville, there's an opportunity at 10 a.m. on Thursday morning. There will be a 2-hour orientation for our next coaching network, which will be in Huntsville, which we're going to launch shortly after that time. Now, it'll be followed at noon on that same date, August 13th through the 15th. Those 3 days will be training for Alabama church planning basics. And we will be, those that will be going to the basic training, there's already 23 or so enrolled in that, and perhaps we'll have even more by the time we start. But that training, they will receive an orientation as a part, but this special orientation at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning is for people who may not be attending this particular session of basic training. And oftentimes people ask me, "Well, I'm not a planter. Can I come to this training?" Yes. As a matter of fact, we didn't set out to do this, but about half the 40 people who graduated from our networks were not planners, because they said, "Hey, we see some benefit in this. Can we come and be a part of it?" The principle is unapologetically a church planning coaching network. However, the principles are very transferable to an established church that wishes to revitalize. So we welcome that, and that's what the 10 o'clock, and they can register by notifying our office or notifying me, and any way they'd like to. They can just show up if they want to. This is a no frills orientation. We won't have lunch. We won't do a whole lot of anything. We just want you to come to this orientation at 10 o'clock. So we'd love to have.
And just to close out, and then we'll give some information for folks that want to follow up, in a sentence or two, churches on every corner here in the Bible Belt, so to speak, remind us why we need to be planting churches.
Because of the almost 5 million people that call Alabama home. 2 million of them don't go to anybody's church. And doing the same thing the same way we've always done it and expecting different results is not going to get it done. I think we've all heard John Wooden quoted as saying that that's the height of insanity. But can I say this? It's not the only way to do evangelism, but it is a vital part, because new churches baptize 10.7 people per 100 members. And the average Southern Baptist church baptizes 2.3 per 100 members. So new churches, new Sunday school classes, new small groups grow faster and reach more for Christ. New churches, new congregations also reach more people for Christ. And it's a way to do it. It's the way God has called me to do it. I don't say that it's for everybody, but I would certainly encourage you to consider the value of church planting.
That's a good word. And if you want to learn more or just follow up on the information we shared today, you can always go to our website, which is alsbom.org. But you can go specifically to our church planting information by going to plantalabama.org, real easy to remember. And you'll find out about upcoming training opportunities and other information that will help you. plantalabama.org. And I just want to say again, thanks to you guys for coming and being a part of this today. Thank you for what you're doing for the kingdom and for giving of your heart and your life to serve the Lord through the church plant you're involved in. And Lamar, thank you for your service to Alabama Baptist as well. Thanks for joining us today. Watch your Twitter feed for our next Periscope broadcast when it comes up. But thank you so much for being a part of this today.